Hello everyone and welcome along to the Panto Podcast. This week I interview a national treasure. Paul Chuckle, one half of obviously the legendary Chuckle brothers, chats to me about pantomime, how a football injury changed his career path, the loss of Barry, and how Chucklevision saved a girl's life. Paul would also like to ask our overseas listeners to look up Chucklevision if you've never heard of it before. Believe it or not, some people in the world haven't. Have a look on YouTube and then have a listen to the episode. Please don't forget as well to hit that little subscribe button so you always get the latest Panto podcast straight into your inbox. In the meantime, please enjoy the latest Panto podcast. I'm joined today then with Paul Chuckle. Is that how you like to be referred to, by?
Oh yes,
Paul
I mean
Chuckle.
nobody knows me as Paul Elliott really. There is a Paul Elliott who puts shows on all around the country and things. He talks very much like that. No, I'm not him. I'm Paul Chuckle. Everybody
Paul Chuckle.
Paul Chuckle.
When did it begin for you then with actually performing? I mean, we've talked. I've spoke to your brothers before and about the influence of your dad and things like that. But how did it actually get started for you, having such comedy influences in the house?
Yeah, Barry and myself used to put shows on in our backyard when we were kids. To make a couple of bob, penny here, halfpence here, and a farthing. There was farthings in those days. Yeah, if you wanted a frozen lolly, it was a farthing. We used to put shows in the backyard. I never wanted to be in the business. I played football for all the school teams, for the junior school team and then the senior school team. I got I just got into the Rotherham Boys clique when I got a very bad injury and spent 3 weeks in hospital, and they said I'd never play football again. They were lying because I did play again, but I couldn't play to the standard I used to play. I lost all the speed, I couldn't run fast and all that. So when I left school at 15, what am I going to do? So Barry was already a comedian, working clubs and bits and pieces. So I joined Barry. Our first date was the Edinburgh Palladium with Dorothy Squires, was top of the bill, very famous singer who married, what's his name? James Bond. Come on, help me.
Sean Connery?
No, the next one.
Roger Moore.
Roger Moore, yes.
Roger Moore.
Yes. And it's not against the law. Roger Moore was a young lad. She was getting on, obviously. It's a bit of a cougar. But everybody said he married her to get on in the business, which it didn't help. It didn't not help him, and he did get on very well. But as a young 15-year-old lad, it was a bit of an experience working with someone like Dorothy Squires, because I had never ever in my life heard a girl or a woman swear. In those days, it was boys' school and girls' school. They weren't mixed at all. So you never met a girl that swore, and you never heard your mum or your sister swear. And she came off stage the first night, and she was effing and blinding. As a footballer, I thought I'd heard every swear word, but these words were coming out of her mouth, and she was cursing. And couldn't believe it. As a 15-year-old lad, mouth wide open, listening. I don't believe this. She was talking about the MD, the musical director, saying what a nice person he was, and the opposite, if you understand. So that was an eye-opener, my first gig ever.
What were you doing in that first gig then?
Song and dance and a few gags, a couple of gags. We opened the show and we opened the second half as well. And then shortly after that, and Dad didn't want us to go into business right from the start. He told us before we joined, you want to get a proper job, an ordinary job. He said, you'll be travelling around the country, because he did it for years. He said, you might never get anywhere, so you're better off getting a job like Colin, that's another brother that's a mechanic, do something like that. But no, we wanted to be in the business. We used to get up to go to school, and Jimmy and Brian would be laying in bed, while we had to get up for school. We thought that's the life for us, really. You don't have to get up in the morning. But as I said, we did that show, and we did a few more. What was your last question?
What were you doing on the stage then?
On the stage,
We
did. As I say, we opened with a song, and we did a few little gags, and then a tap routine to finish. And Dad told us in the 60s, after 2 or 3 years of doing it, he said never saw us work. He didn't see us work until the 1970s, my dad. But he told us, you don't want to be overdoing stuff. Don't do singing and dancing and comedy. That's where Jimmy and Brian went wrong. And going wrong, he said, you'll always work and you'll always be on the bill. Everybody will want to use you, but you'll never become a star name. There's only one person ever did it, which was Roy Castle. He managed to do it, but he's the only person as far as I know. He said, stick to one thing, either singing, the dancing or the comedy. So we dropped the singing and the dancing because we liked making people laugh and did the comedy only. And obviously eventually that paid off. We eventually made it after 25 years slogging round, but we refused to do anything but comedy because we understood what he meant, which is why Brian mentioned that we got paid off a couple of times in the clubs. There isn't a comic in the country that hasn't been paid off. You've nothing to fall back on. If they don't like you, they're not laughing at you, you've had it. Whereas Jimmy and Brian were all right. They would drop the comedy and sing and dance. So they were not going to get paid off, are they? Then we were doing bits and pieces, but we weren't getting the work. We were only young lads. So we took jobs on instead, to fill in between doing odd jobs here and there. Then we did a summer season. Our first summer season was 1965, which was at Sunshine Holiday Camp on Hailing Island. It was a great time. Oh, I had a lovely time. I was, 17, coming up 18, and we went away from home for 6 months. And being like a redcoat, you can't go wrong. What a life.
I think I know what you mean.
Yes. Plenty of fun, card games and things, cups of tea.
Yeah,
good time.
And what about with Barry as well then? Were you always sort of inseparable like that?
Yeah, we were together wherever we did all the time. There, I remember we had this really tatty old caravan we had to stay in, and you had to walk like quarter of a mile to the loo, from the caravan. It was not very nice at that time of night, when you don't finish till midnight, and you were on again at 7:30 in the morning. It was hard work. Couldn't do it now, but in those days you were young lads. Barry was 20, I was 17, and I did everything together, literally.
Whose idea was it then, out of the pair of you, to actually form this double act?
Well, Barry always wanted me to join him, because to say we did the shows in the garden and stuff, and he was working on his own. He didn't like working on his own, and he was, and I used to say, no, I'm playing football. That's me, my career. Because we had a fabulous side at school. There was one season, I think, the second or third years, that we went the full season and we won every single game we played. We won the league, we won the cup. We were beating teams like 15-1 and 16-0. It was just a great side, and it turned out I wasn't, because I got injured, but 8 of our team all signed on for football teams, like Doncaster Rovers, Rotherham United, Sheffield United, all signed on for different teams. They didn't all make it. A couple of them went to Australia to play football, but we had such a good team, almost the whole side could have turned professional. It was a really good side. So I wasn't going to do anything but that. But then when I got injured, for about 9 or 10 months, I didn't want to do anything. I was at school still, but I'm not bothered. I don't want to do anything. I didn't want to work at all. Didn't want to do anything. But Barry kept saying. So I decided, go on, then we'll put something together. So we rehearsed a few bits and pieces, and then advert came in the stage. And Barry wrote to them and told them who we were and what we wanted to do and what we do. And they offered us this week at the Edinburgh Palladium, so that was great. That was the start of it. Actually, Mum lost money on it, because I think we got £10 for the week. It was 1963. £10 for the week, but I think our fares, which Mum paid for, were about £6 for return. Our digs were about, I think it was about £1.10 each, something like that, which was £3. So that was £9 something out of our 10. And she gave us a couple of pound each to spend, because it was only bed and breakfast, so we had to get something to eat and go to the pictures and stuff. So I think it cost Mum about £3 for us to go and work that week. But it was great.
What an experience, though.
Oh, what an experience it was.
And what sort of routines then were you doing? Can you remember any of the comedy stuff you started doing?
I can't. No, it's that far back. I mean, it is 56 years ago. The memory's not that clever nowadays.
Here's the question then. Where did the name Chuckle Brothers come from?
Well, we got together before. I think Brian was mentioning it. We weren't going to be the Patton Brothers. We weren't going to be Paul and Barry Harmon, obviously. And we were thinking name like Laugh Brothers. And then we thought, no, we could get done by the Trades Descriptions Act if we don't get the laughs, you know. But we surely make people chuckle, you know. And that's more or less where it came up. Yeah. Chuckle Brothers. Yeah.
What sort of year was that?
That, I think, was 79, end of 79 into 1980. Something like that. But we, as I say, we got the act together and we were going to do nothing else but be a foursome. Like the Marx Brothers, the new Marx Brothers, they were four brothers, and we were going to be the same sort of thing, the new version of the Marx Brothers. And we were determined that it would work. And it did. We got but both Jimmy and Brian and me and Barry had both got pantomime in the book, so we were obviously going separate ways for pantomime. Forget there we were going. We went to Stockport, the Davenport Theatre at Stockport, and we'd done 2 TVs. I think The Good Old Days and 321, and we'd done a week's variety in Liverpool. Then we split to do pantomime, went and did our pantomimes separately. Came back together and we did another date, I forget what it was, but then we did Lenny and Jerry show from the Talk of the Town. And the manager at the time we had for the 4 of us was desperate searching for summer seasons. There'd been a couple of tentative offers, but they weren't paying enough money. But he was still looking, and that we were all looking, so we weren't looking for anything except leaving him to do it all. A couple of weeks after we'd done Lenny and Jerry show, I got a call from Brian. And he said, "Oh, Paul," I said, "Yeah." He said, "We've got summer season." I said, "Oh, brilliant." I said, "Where are we going?" He said, "Oh no, me and Jim, not you two." And I said, "But you know, we've not looked for anything because we're supposed to be." Well, he said, "We've got to work." He said, "We've got kids to pick up, you know, look after." He said, "Yeah, well, we've got to work as well." I said, "Well, that's not my problem, you know." We've had summer season, so me and Barry were left high and dry. So they just went their own way, and we got on to the manager and said Jimmy and Brian had booked, which shocked him as well, that they'd booked a summer. So he said, "Well, I'll tell you what I'll do is I'll get back onto Jerry Stevens' management, because they wanted you in Southend but couldn't pay the money, but they'll be able to pay for the 2 of you." So he got on to them and they said, "Great, yeah." So we went as the Chuckle Brothers, me and Barry, to Southend, had a great 6-week summer season, and then it's gone on straight from there. Where did we get our break after that? It was about 2 years after. No, it was about the year after, I think it was. We got offered 2 weeks over Easter by a management from the North East. Phoned us up direct, so we dropped the manager because he wasn't doing anything for us. We were on our own again without a management. Phoned up and said, "Would you do 2 or 3 weeks with Ward Allen and Roger the Dog?" Because Roger the Dog show was on children's TV at the time. And do it. We said, "A kids show?" So we've never worked to kids in our life. And they said, "Yeah, you do pantomime every year." I said, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, yeah, you got 50% adults, 50% kids." And they said, "Well, you got mums and dads that bring the kids along to these shows." So we said, "Well, yeah, it's theatre work, which we love doing anyway." Because we'd refused to do any clubs after 1974 when we won New Faces. After that, we never did clubs again. So we went and did this show, and the business wasn't wonderful. And we went to the Davenport Theatre at not the Davenport, no, it was Thameside Theatre at Manchester, North Manchester. And it was a matinee, 2 o'clock show, and there was 28 people in. I think there's about a dozen women and 15, 16 kids in the audience. Luckily, they brought them all to the front to watch. And me and Barry are looking at each other saying, "This shouldn't be right. You know, equity should stop you having to go on stage, big 1,200-seater theatre, playing to 28 people." But we went on and we just had fun. We just lived it, because Dad always told us, You know, give it 100%, whether you've got 2,000 people in or 10 people in. Give it the same, because it's not their fault it's not full. You know, because they've paid the same money as they would if it had been full. So give it 100%. We always did that. And we do tell people, young people in the business now, to do the same thing, you know. Never walk through a show. You know, it was matinee during pantomime and it's full of old people and things. Don't just think, oh, I can't be doing with this, and just walk through it. Give it 100%, you know. They've paid the same as everybody else, so bang it out. There's no point. You've got to be there anyway. Why walk through it? You know, bang it out. So we always tell people that. So anyway, we went on and we were having fun and we were doing the gags, and Barry kept going down and sitting down the bottom, leaving me on my own. And I'm telling him, get back up here, and he's saying, no, it's better down here than it is up there. He's doing all that sort of stuff, you know. So we just had fun, and they loved us. The audience loved us, and we had a good time. Get up the next morning, I'm pottering about at home. Phone goes, I answer the phone, and I said, hello, and this voice said, hello, I'm Peter Risdale Scott from the BBC. And I said, you know, just like real posh voice. And I said, oh yeah, come on, who is it? Thinking it's one of the mate in the business, you know. I'm Peter Risdale Scott from the BBC in Manchester. And I said, oh, hi, how are you? I said, I'm very well, thank you. He said, myself and Martin Hughes from BBC Manchester, he said, we were in to see the show yesterday. And I said, no. I said, there were only 28 people in. I said, it was... He said, exactly. He said, and we thought how wonderful you were playing to 28 people like that. He said, if you worked in a studio, that's the maximum you'd have anyway, with cameramen and sound and lighting. And if you can work, and he's going on, he's about, if you work to that. And I said, oh, thanks very much. I didn't say, well, give us a job then. But he said, his next thing was, would you like to come and have lunch with me and Martin in Manchester? And we'll talk about the Roger the Dog show and tell him. I said, oh, fantastic, yeah, brilliant. And that's where it all started. We went over, I think the following week, had lunch, had a good chat with them, and they're going on. And they said, we'd like you to do the next series of Roger the Dog. Fantastic, we said. And they said, well, don't get too overexcited because we've got 2 costumes we'd like you to wear. So we give a frown. They said, yes, unfortunately they won't see your face, but we will see your visual actions. So I was right. So we went down and they took us to the costume department, and it was all It's a Knockout costumes. Remember all the It's a Knockout? Some fabulous stuff in there was. But they showed us these dog costumes. There was one brown and white spaniel type one, which was Barry's, and this big sort of I don't know what it was, not red setter, a retriever type dog, big dark grey one, which was mine. And they did weigh a ton, absolute weighed a ton to but the idea was for It's a Knockout, you know, they'd try and run in it with the big feet. And remember It's a Knockout.
Yeah.
Great show. And they were funny just to look at. So I said, well, what do you want us to do with them? And they said, well, you'd be Roger's butlers. You know, you bring him a drink, you bring him some food and stuff like that. And we said, oh right. I said, a bit of a waste though, you know, having characters like that just doing this. And they said, what do you mean? I said, well, they could do anything really. Of course, they can't speak, but Laura and Hardy didn't speak on most of their early films, all of their early films, and they were hilarious. And I said, well, how do you mean? Well, it's just visual comedy. I said, they look funny before you start. You just do a few little bits and pieces, and well, I'll tell you what, go away and come back in a week's time and show us what you mean. You work some out. So we did. We went back and we thought of a few gags like hands, knees, falling over, smack in the face, just different stuff that Laura and Hardy used to do. They went back a week later and did them all for him. Thought it was great. So they put in the Roger the Dog show, instead of us being his butlers, every now and again they'd put an insert of the Chucklehounds coming on and doing a silly, stupid thing and then back. So I think a 7-week series we did it, and at the end of the series they went round the schools all around the UK asking who watched Roger the Dog show, and the ones that did, they'd ask them what was your favourite part, and 98% of the kids said there were the Chucklehounds that came on. They were great. Because we got the name Chuckle in there, you know. They said these 2 dogs, they were going to call them something or that. I said, well, you know, we can't see our face, so can we use our name, call them the Chucklehounds? And they said, oh yeah, that sounds good. So we did that, and because they got this big feedback, they gave us a series of it. Well, they didn't actually give us a series of it, but they said we'll commission a pilot show of it. So Martin Hughes got the money together, set up what we were going to do, this Christmas Chuckle thing, and it was the two dogs in it was, I don't know if you ever saw it.
Oh yeah,
It's a very funny one. Yeah, the snow on the roof, and me keep hands on hips because Barry's done something wrong, and I shove him out the door and slam the door, and the snow fall on his head. It was all funny, all setting up for Chucklevision really.
Yeah.
But less violent. And we got, just before we went to do the pilot, Martin phoned us up and said, "Can I come over? I've got something to tell you." I said, "Yeah." So he came over to the house. We were living at Mum's at the time, and he said, "I've got a big bunch of the budget left over after doing the Chuckle Hounds thing. Would you like to do one as yourselves as well?" We said, "We'd love to. I'd love to do a series as ourselves." So we did this pilot show of me and Barry. Then we went off to pantomime in Cardiff Panto, with Stu Francis, Ruth Maddock. It was a nice show that was. And get a phone call during rehearsals. It's Martin, went to the stage door and answered the phone. Martin, he said, "Got some great news for you." He said, "What?" He said, "I'd just finished editing the Chuckle Hounds Christmas, and I shot it off down to London this morning." He said, "And the Radio Times Christmas special edition was going to press at midday." And he said, at 10 to midday, the editor of BBC stopped the press and put Chuckle Hounds Christmas in. He'd just seen it from the pilot, and he was putting it on Christmas Eve at 10 to 12 till midday on Christmas Eve. I couldn't believe it. We'd only done it as a pilot, but he was putting it on TV straight away. And we were dead chuffed, overboard, obviously, telling everybody, "We've got this, Chuckle Hounds are on, and it's going on Christmas." The next day, we get a phone call at stage door again with, "Oh, he's not going to say they've changed their mind." And he said the guy again, TV head, phoned Martin up and he said, "We've all been trying to work out. They're not glove puppets, so obviously they're running around, and they're not marionettes."
Yeah.
He said, "There must be somebody inside them." And he said, "Yeah, there is." He said, "It's the Chuckle Brothers, that's why they're called the Chuckle Hounds." He said, "Well, have you got any footage of them?" He said, "Well, it just so happens I've just done a pilot of them as well." "Oh, send it down." So they sent it down, and 2 days later he phones again, and he said they absolutely love it, because he also said that when they put this on for Christmas, the Chuckle Hounds Christmas, they want to do a series of it in the next New Year. So we were dead chuffed, we got a series and everything. But now he phones and said, "This pilot of ours," and he phones, "They've seen you, and they've changed their mind. They're not going to do a series of Chuckle Hounds. They want to do a series with you too." We said, "Oh, now we're over the moon. We've got our own TV series." The following week, we got another phone call that BBC Worldwide have decided they want to fund the money to do Chuckle Hounds because they can sell it worldwide, which they did. They sold it to 54 countries around the world. So it said they're going to have to put off our own show for another year while they do the Chuckle Hounds. So then we're deflated. We've got a series, but we're deflated because it's not us. Stop you making a stupid noise. Yeah. So that came out the following. Although in those days, nowadays TV, they can ask you, are you free to do a TV show? "Oh yeah, of course you are." Yeah. You go down, and 3 weeks later it's actually being filmed and it's on telly. In those days, it was over 12 months before it came out, because this was organised around the Christmas time. We didn't start filming the Chuckle Hounds until the January of the following year. It took a whole year to sort it out and set it up and write it and make the scenery and everything, which was okay, because we were still enjoying the fact that we've got this going. We were carrying on working anyway. Then we were doing pantomime at Halifax with Roses are shining in Piccadilly. What's his name? Vince Hill. You see your lost then, you look on your face. Yeah, Vince Hill, Jeff Capes and Linda Nolan. It was a lovely pantomime, again, great names. And we were travelling in the morning over to Manchester to film Chuck Lowndes, going back to do the matinees and things in the afternoon. And then after Panto finished, we were fine. We had all day to finish it. Did the series, went out, it was a huge success. So it went to 54 countries around the world. And then they started setting up ready for Chucklevision, for the following year. And we went to, I think, pantomime in Darlington with Stu Francis and a few others. I won't mention the female that was in it because it was just before I met Sue. I was out with her. And went to summer season in Blackpool, doing the Tower Circus for the summer. And we started filming in September. Well, obviously the summer season at Blackpool went on till end of November, so we had to film the whole series of Chucklevision while we were still doing the summer season. So we were finished the show at night at 9 o'clock, the circus finished, and we'd drive to Manchester, park up, stay in the hotel, do the script, reading the script like mad, trying to get it in. They're panicking those days. Got to remember this, got to remember that. I mean, as Chucklevision went on, we didn't bother. We never looked at the script until the morning we were filming. You just do 2 pages and film it. It got a lot easier. But then it was like panic before you go to bed, because we were up at 7 o'clock to go into the studio and start filming the first series of Chucklevision. And then finish at midday, get in the car, drive back to Blackpool, and you had a matinee at about 1:30, 1:30, 1:45, something like that in the afternoon. Then another evening show, and then drive back to Blackpool again 5 days a week. It was very heavy work, but I was only 39 at the time, Barry was only 42. We were young lads, really.
What was the reaction like then to Chucklevision?
It was massive, a lot bigger than we were. I mean, to me, to you, it's just something me and Barry have always done. We're going to a flat for summer season or pantomime. Because you isn't like digs were no good. You see a sign on the wall saying "Be in bed before I am." And you say, "What?" No, it's 1 a.m. Oh, I see. We'd move furniture around. 'Cause I was fine. I walk in anywhere. We were chalk and cheese when it comes to tidiness, for instance. I'm a mess. You walk into my dressing room and it was a total mess. Everything's everywhere. I know where things are. You just put it down, put it down, put it down, pick it up, put it down. Yeah. Barry, he's immaculate. Everything's in its place. And if you could go into his dressing room and he wasn't there, and you'd move his pencil 2 or 3 inches, first thing he'd do when you walk in, he'd move it back, not knowing it'd be moved. It's like, why is that there? Put it back. So we go into a flat and everything's fine for me. Sit down, watch telly, whatever. This is not right. It's like yin and yang, That shouldn't be there. Be better if that table's over here, We've got more room over there. Okay, so to me, to you, and we'd move it backwards and forwards like that. We always did it. It was just a thing, Not as fun. It was just what you do. No, back to me in this corner. Okay. And the first series, we were moving something and we did it without thinking, to you, to me, then to you. And so about a week after we'd done that had come out on the telly on the Saturday morning. We were walking down the street, me and Barry, and building site, and some guys start shouting, "To you, to me, to you," grown workers up on the scaffolding. We went, aye, all right. So where'd we got that from? Because we didn't realise we'd actually said it on the show. We'd done the "to me, to you," and after that, lots of people were saying it to us. So we thought, oh, it's a catchphrase without trying for one, And that's where that came about. And the first time, I think it was the week after the first episode had been on, first show on the Saturday. It's during the week, and you get on the ring edge at the end, everybody round waving to the crowd. And this little lad, about 8, 9-year-old, with his dad, he said, "Oh, Dad, look, it's him off the telly." That's the first time I'd been recognised as close as that, And it was an amazing feeling. Of course, it's a lot different now. That kid's about 42 now.
Where did the tashes come from? I know the top lip, but...
Yeah, we've had them... I think I grew mine when I was about 23-year-old. And it's just something I've always had. I just kept it there. The hair has changed several times. We've had curly perms in the 70s. Really long curly perms up to the shoulders. It was awful when it was starting to grow out. You had the straight bits and then the bottom was all curly. It looked dreadful. But, I think what year did... I think it was doing 84, 1984, doing pantomime with Stu and Ruth Maddock at Cardiff, and I wanted to change. It's spending all this money every month or so, to have it curled and stuff, and I decided to have it chopped off leave a mullet at the back, but there's spike hair on top, and I did it. And a few months later, Barry did the same. He had his cut the same, and we had it like that when we did the first show, Chucklevision. So it was there ever since. Moustaches, and all things they're not really set up. It just happens. It's life.
It works.
Yeah, it worked. It all worked. Yeah, we were recognisable everywhere we went, and the name is recognisable. And what we did was fun on Chucklevision, and we never did anything that. So mums and dads liked us because we never did anything that was dangerous. We'd never climb a ladder. I mean, all this with a ladder, everybody thinks we carried ladders about. I think the only time I can remember is carrying a ladder. We carried planks over our shoulders, but the only time I remember using a ladder was when we were supposed to be two builders, and we were carrying this ladder, and I'd walk across. Barry'd walk with a ladder across the shot. Ladder would go through, I'd come through with a shot, and I'd go out a shot, and then Barry'd come out the other end of it, walking. I think that's the only time I remember using a ladder, because we never climb a ladder, because it's dangerous. We never went near an electric plug to plug anything in or anything like that. Never electric kettles, nothing like that, cooking. Never did anything like that. Anything that could be dangerous to kids, we wouldn't do. Because, I'll tell you, one of the main reasons why, there was Super Gran. And Barry's next door neighbour, their little girl, 3-year-old, went up to the upstairs window, put a cloak on and jumped out thinking she could fly like Super Gran. People don't think of that when they're making TV programmes. Kids will do what you're doing. They don't understand. They think, oh, that's what you do. You can put the cloak on, you jump and you fly. She jumped out the top when she broke her leg, but luckily she didn't kill herself. So as I say, we refused to do anything. I mean, Martin was exactly with us as well. Martin Hughes, he said, no, we'll not do that. We certainly won't do that. He started, when his kids started to get a bit older, he started getting a bit more adventurous with stuff, but sometimes he'd be a bit too adventurous. We'd say, no, Martin, we've still got little kids watching, we shouldn't do that. And I mean, we must have done something right, 23 years of Chucklevision. It was a lot of time. But it's some great fun doing them as well. Fabulous fun doing them.
What were you watching then as a child? Because you mentioned earlier on about the Marx Brothers and Laurel and Hardy. Yeah. What was your entertainment?
TV-wise, Mick and Montmorency were absolutely brilliant. It was Charlie Drake and Jack somebody or other. You forget his name because he didn't go on to do anything else, but Charlie Drake did. It was they did very much what they had dungarees and they did different jobs. Very much what we did as Chucklevision, really. But they were, for us as kids, they were so funny. Also, Mr. Pastry was another guy we used to watch. He wasn't old, but he looked old, with the white tash and the hair and that. It was all that stuff when we were kids. And we used to go and watch Dad, obviously, and Jimmy and Brian. And, we had a good childhood. Good childhood. In fact, I was just saying the other day, the difference with kids now, especially teenagers, they get on a week's break, half term or whatever, and they sleep till lunchtime. I used to hate getting up for school. It was like 8:20. I had to leave at 8:30 to walk to school. I'd get up at 20 past, quick wash, maybe a bit of cornflakes and out the house. But when it came to time off school, like for half term, summer holidays, I was awake at 7 o'clock in the morning. Out and about, and we're out. All the lads are out playing football by 7:30. Couldn't get up for school, but when we're off, we're out. Brilliant. So a great childhood, loved it.
Did you go to many pantomimes when you were a kid?
Oh yeah, every year we went to see Dad. Always went to see Dad. And my coach trip from the street, went to see him when he was at Doncaster. He did pantomime in Doncaster. And everybody on the street went on the coach. And obviously again, Jimmy and Brian, we'd go and see Jimmy and Brian pantomime. And of course then we went and we did 52 pantomimes we've done now. Well, we had done. Barry and I did 51, and I'd done 52. But they're great. I love pantomime. It's the only time of year that you get to work with everybody else. You get, instead of being on your own doing stuff, you're working with actors, dancers, singers, you name it, full mishmash. And actors especially, it's always fun working with an actor, especially if it's a baddie. Me and Barry used to love it because, they're very... Being actor is part of the job. Script is script. They read it and they wait for you to give them the line for them to come back at you. Me and Barry would love giving the wrong line for them. Or saying something completely different. And the glazed look they'd get on their eyes looking back at us,
Did you do that very often?
Oh, quite often, yeah. And then we'd look to the audience and say, he's forgotten his lines again. We'd thrown him a completely different line. Yeah, lots of fun.
It's always been that childishness with yourselves as well, is that?
Yeah, we have. We've always been, it was the thing we always wanted to do, be one of the kids. Whenever we were working, Chucklevision was the same. Any job that came along, we'd do it as the kid would do it. Not a tiny kid, but as like a 10, 11-year-old would say, oh, well, it's easy that, you just get up and knock a nail in it, So that's the kind of thing we would do, and same in pantomime, on stage, we'd work with the kids. There's nothing worse than people talking down to the kids, which a lot of people do. They're on stage and they're working and they're, are you all right, kids? Well, I want you to all to shout back at me and that sort of stuff. That's really, I say it's like patronising. They get that at school. They get teachers telling them what to do at school. We believe, we always did, go on stage and we'd be one of the kids. They could see who we were because we were just being one of them. Hey, you all right? Hello. Come and join in, sort of thing. It's very hard to explain mine and Barry's comedy, really, except we were sort of like Lauren Hardy, but not like Lauren Hardy. We like to work very much like Morecambe Wise, but not like Morecambe Wise. I suppose we were our own entity, really, me and Barry. I can't think of anybody that were remotely similar to us, really. Working live or on telly. We tried to be different and got away with it.
All them years.
Yeah, 2 lads from Rotherham from East Erinthorpe, who'd believe it.
It hates me to have to ask this question. I've been honestly dreading asking this. What was it like walking out on that stage the first time without Barry by your side?
Well, by the time I'd got to pantomime, I'd already done several things on my own. The hardest, I should think, probably was the first nightclub I did after he'd passed away, which was in September, the month after. He, because we'd done all these nightclubs, PAs, we'd sing Since You Tried, a song we did to Meet You, Bruv, and Blow Your Whistle, Barry, and then Meet and Greet. So we'd always gone on to these. They're always sold out, because they're all grown up with us. All the students and stuff had grown up. So they all come in to meet us. And I didn't know what it was going to be like being on my own and doing a DJ spot, which obviously I'd never done until then. And panicky a bit going to do it. But then once I got up there, got oiled up with a couple of nice Bell's whiskies inside me. Got on there and they absolutely loved me. They cheered like mad when I walked on. They loved the music I was playing. And they loved meeting me. Afterwards, no one having a photo with me. And from then on, that got pretty easy. And by the time pantomime came along, I'd done about 15 or 20 of these clubs. Done a few interviews on telly and what have you, radio on my own. So once I'd rehearsed what we were doing, I was pretty fine walking on the first night. But my wife Sue, she got a bit upset watching me rehearsing, in the rehearsal studio, doing like our opening was always "We have got some presents, some present." It was all we this, we that. Barry did a bit, I did a bit, Barry did a bit, and I'm now doing it on my own. So when she heard me singing "I have got some presents" and things, she got really choked up, upset, which upset me a little bit then when she was telling me about it. Thinking, well, yeah, all these years we've done it together. Now and it's still hard to think about. We will never ever be on stage again together. I'll never walk on with Barry there beside me. That's hard.
Do you like to include the odd little line for him as a little nod?
I do, yeah, I do. I mean, this pantomime, I at the end giving the routine I do with adults, 3 dads and a woman on stage, and I always keep one back, messing him about, and I give him a photograph of me and Barry, and I said, everybody told me when Barry passed away that, I should carry on doing it, and Barry will be with me wherever I go. And I said, they're dead right, he has been with me for every minute, and now giving you that's for Barry. And they loved it, the audience, obviously. It's a few people said it was very upsetting, obviously. Well, not upsetting, but,
touching,
a bit tear-jerking, yeah. Which it was for me the first couple of times I did it, But I do believe he is there. Everybody has dreams. You have dreams almost every night you can remember. But I can't ever remember having a dream with Barry in it. But from the day after he died until now even, nearly every dream I have, Barry's there. He's there beside me, Not like he was, in later years, but as like mid-30s, mid-40s, that sort of age group. And he's always there, always, in these dreams. Just with me, doing whatever we're doing in a dream, he's there. So I do believe. He didn't believe in the hereafter, he wasn't religious at all, which is why he had the service and things at New York Stadium, Rotherham United. But I always say, you'll find, you're wrong. When you go, you'll realise that you're wrong. And I now think he's trying to let me know that he was wrong. That's why he's in the dreams, So I do believe he's there, on stage and everywhere.
How were the public with you after he passed?
They've been fabulous. They really have been fabulous. They, obviously, the hardest part when he did pass was people coming up and saying, "I'm so sorry to hear about your brother," and what have you. That sets you off. It's like when you're a kid, you fall over and bang your knee, and you jump up, you're fine, until your mum goes, "Oh, give me a hug, love, does it hurt?" And you go, "Oh," and you're away, aren't you? And it's exactly the same with that. So me and Sue went off after about a week, and decided, can't be doing with this. Went off on holiday for 2.5 weeks, away from where anybody would be, and we did go where nobody would recognise you. Went to Shanghai in China, of all places, but we didn't see one person from the UK all the time we're out there, which was great. Nobody ever came up and said anything. You can't get Google out there, so there's nothing like that. It's banned, it's illegal, so you can't get anything. And it was just away from it all for 2.5 weeks. When we got back, I wasn't so bad when people were coming up and saying, sorry to hear about your brother. They're still doing it now. The other night I was at Dancing on Ice, and I'm chatting with all the mates there, all the celebrities, they're lovely guys, all of them. And I think there's only 2 of them that I hadn't met before, and that was Christopher Dean and Jane Tolville and Christopher Dean. And they weren't very friendly, really. They were all right, they smiled for a photo, but they didn't want to have a chat, nothing like that. Amazing, because they always look as though they're a really nice couple. So anyway, there 2 or 3 people, were saying that, so sorry about your brother-in-law. I said, yeah, it's 6 months now. It's, I've been through a lot in my life. I lost a 3-month-old baby girl back in 1975, on the first marriage, first time round. Then lost my dad. Then lost my mum. very clumsy of me, isn't it? Listening to these people. And of course, then my sister died in 2005, 6, whatever it was, 7. Then Colin, my brother, died about 3 years ago. And then, of course, Barry's just passed away, so I've had enough grief over the years. But I'm still going, and I'm going to keep going until I can, until I drop.
I think a lot of it is because we grew up with you. I'm in my 40s. I know, it's hard to believe.
Yes, I thought you were about 21.
Oh, thank you. I'm going to keep that.
Says a 25-year-old.
The cataracts. But we've grown up with you and watched you on telly. You're like a pair of daft uncles.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
And
that's what we tried to be all the time.
And it was just, obviously when the news came about Poor Barry passing away, it was completely unexpected.
Yeah.
I know he kept it all quite hidden, didn't he?
Did, yeah.
Even from you, wasn't it?
Yeah. He asked them all not to say anything to me, because I would have said, get it sorted, and so would the manager, Phil, if he'd have known. He'd have said, no, get yourself away, and we'd have argued, because he didn't like doctors, Barry. He didn't like hospitals. He didn't like anything like that. And if he'd have told me when he first got it, I'd have forced him into, taking the treatment and doing stuff. He evidently, Anne told us afterwards that he had a thing on his shoulder, and they took half his shoulder blade away about 7 years ago, 6, 7 years ago, and they offered him they said it should be all gone. We think we've taken it all, but we recommend you have some chemo, just in case, what have you. And he refused. He said, I don't want to be losing my hair and all that and being sick and ill. No, I don't have that. So he didn't do it. So who knows, if he had done, he might have still been here. And then, say it was only about 6, 7 weeks, we were doing Sport Aid. We wanted to do a sketch with Chris Kamara on Sport Aid. And that's when I realised he was really getting bad. Because I thought he got sciatica, but down both legs. And I kept saying to him, surely they can sort that out. Do something, stretch you or whatever. And they said, well, they say not. I kept saying. But I went round, got a taxi, came pick me up, and then went down to pick Barry up at his house. Went and knocked on the door, came to the door with Anne. And he got a walking stick, which he'd been using a bit because he's hard to walk, and he struggled lifting his legs over the step of the door. I said, crikey, you're in pain today. And he said, it's not too good now. So he hobbled across the car, got in the taxi, and we're talking on the way down, and he's saying how bad it is, the legs and things. And I said, look, I'll nip in and get the tickets, from the machine. And I looked round, and he's struggling to get out of the car. So I went back to him. I said, look, there's no way you can do that, For a start, it's Sport Aid. There's going to be press there taking pictures of everybody going into this sketch, because there was all sorts of people doing it. They don't want to see you walking in like that. I said, I'll phone Phil and tell him that you can't make it. I said, you go back. And I got on the phone to Phil, and I looked back while I was talking, and the taxi driver's having to help him into the car. I thought, bloody hell, that's really bad. I still thought it was sciatica. And I was going to do the Sport Aid, and then going up to East Midlands Airport and flying off to France the next day, because we got farmhouse there, and Sue was already out to meet up. So I phoned Phil, told him that Barry there's no way he could do it. So he gave the commiserations and said sorry to the people. I went to the airport next morning, flew off to France, early flight. I got there to the farmhouse about midday, and I got a phone call about 12:30 from Anne saying, Paul, Barry's in a real bad way, he can't get out of bed. He tried to get up and his legs wouldn't take him. And I said, you're joking? I said, put him on. So he's talking. I said, what is it? Well, and that's when he said, actually, I didn't tell you because I wanted to carry on working and what have you. He said, but it's bone cancer, and there's nothing they can do about it. And I can't walk now. He said, I've gone. So he's in a wheelchair, and we hadn't finished the voiceovers for the Chuckle Time.
Yeah.
Chuckle Time. And well, they kept putting it off for about 6-7 weeks before that. We were supposed to have done it, and they hadn't finished the script. And then they'd put it back for 3 weeks. It came to that. I'd booked my flights and everything back from France, and they said, no, it's still not ready. Can we give it another date? So it came out, and then 2 or 3 days after he'd lost the use of his legs, they say, oh, we want to do it next Thursday. So I said, just a minute. But there's no way. I told Phil by then, and he said, there's no way we can do it down there. If you can come up to Sheffield or whatever and do it there, or Rotherham or my house, even, bring the stuff up. So they agreed to do that. So Barry came round in his wheelchair. They brought him round in a wheelchair, and Barry sat in the lounge, not here, that house we had before, and we sat there and did the last half of the series, the voiceovers, which was no, I won't quote anything on that, but it's we didn't have a lot of input on the script of the whole series, but I mean it was all right. We did it, but we have finished the series, and supposedly doing the last half of the series is supposed to be coming back on Channel 5 sometime in the near.
Because the last thing that a lot of people remember you both for was that cameo role in Benidorm.
Yeah.
You looked like you were having a blast.
Well, it was a hell of a lot of fun. Because again, most of the people we knew anyway, so you have fun meeting up again. Anybody in the business, the friends, and that. That's the beauty of our business, where you know yourself. You work with somebody, you might not see them for 10 years, but then as soon as you see them again, you're old muckers, you're old mates. You're out for a drink and a laugh exactly as you were 10 years before, and that's our business. But we're out there and we did a full day's film. We were picked up at 10 to 7 in the morning. Barry was picked up at 6:30 because he had to do the makeup and all that. He wasn't a very pretty woman, was he? Really?
Well, there was resemblance, some people have said, to Mary Berry.
Yes, there was a man. Yes. He didn't bake as well as her, though. Yeah, they so picked up at 10 to 7 in the morning, went to makeup and costume, then spent all day till 7 o'clock in the evening filming. It's a hard day's work. And we were supposed to be going back the next day to do the long shots, where they're sitting around the table and you're in the background on stage at the back doing something. But that evening, went out, got a bite to eat, got a meal, went back to the hotel about 9 o'clock, 9:15. I was shattered. I was definitely having an early night. Picked up at 6:45 again in the morning, so I'm going to have an early night. Maybe have a whiskey in bed, set me off to sleep. So I went and got a shower, and I'm immaculate when I have a shower. I hate people leaving water on the floor in the bathroom. Hate it, because you walk in with your socks and you hate that. So I get dried in the shower block and step out onto the towel and dry the feet and that. So there's never anything. So I pick up my clothes and walk back into the bedroom, and we reckon it must have been from the vent, the little corridor that goes into the bedroom. There's always a vent that blows air conditioning through and that. And there's a puddle of water out underneath, which you couldn't see on these tiles. I got nothing on my feet, hit that, legs straight in the air, let flat on my back, broke apart 5 ribs. Not just fractured them, broke them apart. Well, at the time I didn't know, I was just out, couldn't breathe for about 3 minutes on the floor. As you do when you go on your back. So anyway, I got myself up, Sue helped me up, and I got into bed. She called the manager up to say, look, there's water here, he's just fallen. And he said, so we'll take you out to the hospital. I said, no, there's nothing to do for bruised ribs. They don't, even if they're fractured, I said, they don't tape them up or anything. I said, I'll be fine. I said, So anyway, I left it at that. Next day I went to the 6:45, picked up, and I walked in. We'd already told them that I'd had a fall and the ribs were hurting. So I walk in holding my ribs like this, and they said, well, we better take you to the hospital to check you out. I said, no, if you've got some paracetamol, just give me those, it'll be all right. They said, no, we insist we'll take you to just check it out. Good job they did. They took me down, x-rayed it, and they showed me the x-ray. There's 5 ribs broken apart. There were 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7, because they give them the numbers. They're all broken. And then they said, we've got to put you through a scanner to make sure there's nothing into your lungs, because collapsed lung if it was in there. So they went through that and they said, no, that's fine, but we'll have to admit you for the weekend. I said, huh? What have I got to be in a hospital for the weekend? And they said, well, we've got to give you intravenous painkillers, because you're going to be in agony within a few hours. You're going to be you won't be able to take the pain. So I was in hospital for Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night, and it's never comfortable when you're trying to sit up and trying to eat and drink. But the Monday they put me through the scanner again, and they said, right, you can go back to your hotel, but you can't fly for 2.5 weeks. And I said, oh dear. 2.5 weeks in the Benidorm sun, by the pool every day, it was painful. And Sue had to give me an injection in the stomach every day in case of clotting bloods and stuff. But I mean, I sunned all day, went out for a meal with the crowd every night. They were all out there, Shane Ritchie and the two lads, the two Rons, not Ronnie Corbett, Ronnie Barker.
Hale and Pace.
Hale and Pace, they were out there, so we were out with them. There was loads of people, Sherry Hughes and all. We're all out having a drink every night. I'm holding my ribs, killing the pain with a scotch out there every night. So we had 2.5 decent weeks. But then flying back, the pain.
Pressure.
The air pressure. It was, I almost in tears, gripping, trying to stop the pain in the ribs. Nothing to do. So you can see why they didn't want me to fly when they were apart. They needed to heal back together a bit. Otherwise they would have gone into my lungs, I'm sure.
Did they ever get the long shots?
No, they used a young 21-year-old lad from Doncaster to play my part on stage, but keeping his back to the audience. You hardly saw it. You hardly saw anything.
Because that was a shame as well, Bobby Nutt.
Oh yeah, I mean it's Bobby that we had doing the trick. We got him up on stage and put the thing on his head and got it stuck.
And the To Me To You.
Yeah.
Whose idea was that? Was that yours or Darren Litton's?
To Me To You. No, we did it while we were doing it, and they're like at rehearsal. And obviously they all fell about laughing. Said, oh, you got to keep that in. He's a good writer. Darren's a really good writer. Have you seen the show, the tour
Yes,
show?
I have.
It's so funny, isn't it?
Very, very naughty.
Oh, it's very naughty. It's so funny. Actually, we saw it in Sheffield, and I mean South Yorkshire are the kind of people that go to Benidorm, so they're great fans, and it was packed out and a fabulous audience. Brilliant.
Going back then to pantomime, how did you find yourselves after the TV work, being known as the Chuckle Brothers without the masks on? How was that?
Rather than the Chuckle Hounds?
Rather than the Chuckle Hounds.
Well, we always did well in pantomime. We from 1970 onwards, we always had 3 or 4 offers where we wanted to go for pantomime. In fact, 1972, Bradford Alhambra, the stage write-up said there can't be a better double act in pantomime than the Chuckle Brothers. And of course, great pantomime awards people, they gave us the award last year, which was nice at last.
Yeah.
It was nice. But we've always had great write-up. It's always done well in pantomime. It's always got big cheers at the end. Many a time higher than the top of the bill. But I mean, Arthur Askey saying to us one year, seeing as we never worked with any big names, by the way, Brian said we never worked with big names. Arthur Askey, top of the bill, and Dickie Henderson was also in there. He was a great comic Canadian. But he said, tap pat on the back and said, absolutely brilliant, lads. A great reception you got on that walk down there at the end. And I said, oh, thanks very much. He said, and I don't worry about it. You'll get some comics that will say they don't like it and they'll stop you doing the comedy. But I'll tell you now, he said, the people love you to death and they'll be saying tomorrow, oh, that young double act, weren't they brilliant? He said, but in 6 months' time, they'll say, you saw the pantomime last year? Oh, yeah, what a fabulous pantomime it was. Who was topping the bill? Arthur Askey. He was brilliant, and they're nothing for you, bad about you, he said, but they won't remember your name. And they probably won't remember you, but they enjoyed the pantomime. So people like myself, they don't care, you go well enough, you're doing the show a favour, And we're the same, we've been the same always, just whoever's on the show, if they get laughs, if they're enhancing the show, brilliant. One thing we didn't like ever was upstaging. Hate people upstaging things. It's do the show. If it's funny, then do it. you know, and you don't mind doing it. But you get some comics that everybody's standing with egg on their face, you know, while the comic is chatting to the audience or something, and, you know, it might be funny, but it's not for everybody else on the stage, you know. You should stick to what you're doing, you know. It'll be funny, but...
Any favourite people then you've worked with over the years?
Loads. Don McLean was a great mate. Lenny Henry, great mate. There's lots of them. I mean, Arthur Askey was a legend. I mean, as a kid I was growing up, and he looked very much like my dad. My dad and Arthur Askey, same sort of size, same type of comedians. He was great. Dickie Henderson, I did gigs with him. He used to do a thing when he was with the microphone, and he'd say, you know, that when you're doing a cabaret, you always get somebody who looks after the microphone lead, because there was no hand mics in those days. He said as you walk away, they'd let the microphone lead out, and as you walk back towards them, they'd pull it back towards you so you don't trip over it. So he said, I'll show you what I mean when you get a bad one. And I'd be on the side of the stage letting the microphone lead out, and then he'd be walking across and he'd suddenly get jerked backwards because it wasn't, and he'd walk back, then I'd let too much go and he'd be tripping over it and then pulling it back and tripping him over on stage. So I did all that with him. You going way back to our second pantomime was with, our first pantomime ever was Sandy Powell. He was an old, can you hear me, mother? Yeah, on the radio. And he was from Rotherham, so it was lovely working with him on our first pantomime. Second one was Wayne Fontana and the Mindbenders, and we used to sing a song with him just before the finale. Would you like to wish on a star? Whoa! Me and Barry were doing that bit. Whoa! Which was fun working with him. He's a lovely guy again. There's loads. I mean, I don't think there's anybody we didn't get on with, you know, over the years. Can't think of anybody. Harry H. Corbett, lovely fella. It was his last, you know, from Steptoe and Son, yeah. It was his last pantomime. He died of cancer 2 months after the panto finished. So we were with him on his last one. And he never said a word. He never said he was ill. You know, and he was extremely ill when he did the pantomime. Nobody knew, because he carried on working, but he was on loads and loads of painkillers. We'd see him with really glazed eyes looking at him and smile and say, hi, how are you, okay? And with glazed look in his eyes. And we used to think, he's on something, you know, he's smoking something or whatever, we don't know. Because he never said anything. And then, of course, when he died, we realised what it was. He was dosed up with painkillers and stuff. That was awful.
Bless him.
And we all get there. Well, I don't want to get there too soon.
No, please don't.
Yeah.
What's been your favourite routines then to do in pantomime?
I think probably our favourite always was the audition. Barry wants to go and be on X Factor or whatever, and I tell him he can't go looking like that, and I laugh at him. You know, make yourself look more like a pop star, come back and I'll see what I can do, make you better, you know. And he goes off to get changed, and a girl comes on and says, I've just made a dress for my mate. I used to be a dress designer, blah, blah. She'd go off again, then Barry'd come back, and I'd say, is that it? Sing us your song. He'd start to sing, and the girl would walk back with the girl with the dress on, and I'd turn around and look and go, hey, that's very good. And Barry'd say, thank you very much, and carry on singing. And I said, I can't see it too well. Could you stand a bit further away from me? I'm talking to the girl all this time. Barry thinks I'm talking to her, and he moves away from me, and I say, can you stand on a chair? And Barry'd get a chair and stand on it. And I say, can we try it higher? And he'd sing higher and higher and higher. And then lower, 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 lower. And then off the chair. And he said, let's see it with the top part off. Again, he's talking about the dress, and Barry'd take his jacket off. And then I said, let's see it with the bottom part off, and he'd take his trousers off, and he'd have a pair of frilly knickers. It was all funny. Then he'd put tying the two hanging pieces around your waist. So he'd look down, he used the trouser legs, so he'd tie them around his waist. And he had braces obviously on it. And I said, can you try and swing it between your legs? And then he'd go, and he was singing away, and then swinging the braces round between his legs. And then I said, can you try and get it up and around your neck? And he'd struggle, and then eventually get the braces round his neck, and he'd tied around his waist and everything. And he bounced around the stage a bit, and then I said, "Hey, I like that." And he goes, "He likes it." And I said, "Take it away, pin it up, and I'll come and sew it up for you later." And I said, "Hey, where you going?" And he said, "There's no way you're going to sew it up for me later." It was always a great routine. Always bring the house down. It was lovely stuff.
Getting the kids wet, because I know that you've got me before with a custard pie when I used to take.
I mean, on our tour shows, we used to do that all the time. Yeah. Yeah. See, it was usually with. Get out of it, no slacking. Brian used to do that in pantomime. Get out of it whenever he played the bad robber in Babes of the Wood. But Jimmy, John Sale wrote the line, "No slacking." Sorry about the coffee. A bit of cough coming on. John Sale, great writer. He wrote, I think, more than half of all the episodes of Chucklevision. And he wrote the character in of No Slacking. He called him No Slacking. In series 4, the 4th series of Chucklevision. And Martin gave it the job to Jimmy to do. And it was a funny line when he kept saying, "And remember, no slacking." So the following series, he wrote him in again as a different, same character, but doing a different job. Because we always got him the sack. Yeah. Whenever we worked for him, we messed his house up, and he didn't get the sack. So the next time we saw him, he'd do something. "Oh, not you two," you know. But it was a good part character. But I think Brian said that Jimmy used to do it himself. That brought it to the table, but he didn't. It was written by John Sale. John would be very unhappy to know that Jimmy had said that.
So the relationship on the screen was you generally bossing round Barry.
Yeah.
What was that like in real life?
It's nothing like that. No, nothing like that now. No, whatever we did, it was always a joint. You know, I wouldn't say we're doing this, and Barry wouldn't say we're doing that. You know, unless we came up with a gag, an idea. I mean, the best one Barry ever came up with was the sliding cloth we use in the sand dance.
Yeah.
You know, where Barry's head would pop on top and it'd go up and down the slide. He dreamt about it the night before, and he called me up to the house. I went up to the house and he said, "Look at this, I think this will be really funny." And he held a tea towel and he brought his head up on top and sloped it down either way. And I said, "Oh, that looks good." I said, "Let's have a go." And I got the towel and I held it in front of him, and he was going up and down. I said, "We've got to put that in." And we'd done the sand dance years before with Ronnie Cryer, and did it with him with saucepan lids with elastic round like braziers, and we used to go ding, king, ting, 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 and things like that. It wasn't that funny, really. You get away with it, but it wasn't that funny, so we didn't bother doing it in the act or anything. And then I said, we could use that. We could do the sand dance and put it in the middle of it. Great idea, and we did. We rehearsed it and did it and put it on stage, and it got rows all the way through. And we did that for 40 years, must have been. You know, it was about 1970 that we came up with that and started doing it. And when we got together, the 4 of us, we put it in the act. Because 80% of the act of the Chuckle Brothers, when the 4 of us together, was mine and Barry's, because all we did was comedy. You know, Jim and Brian did mainly. All the TV work they did was, they wanted them because they did the tap dance, because they were brilliant tappers, great huffers. And so we did it on that act, and it worked very well. We did it on 2 of the 3 TVs we did. We did it as the 4, the sand dance. It's on YouTube now, you've probably seen it on YouTube. It's
love it.
Where we cross over and they both go behind.
Oh, with a little bit of innuendo as well.
Yeah, but it's funny innuendo. It doesn't. It's not dirty gags.
No.
You know.
Has that always been a big thing with you then, especially with pantomime?
Oh yeah. I mean, I hate doing it pantomime when they get too much like that. You know, I don't think it's right. What's his name? The age. Names have always been dreadful. You keep helping me out. The camp.
Julian Clare.
Julian, you know our name, Julian. And Julian does go a bit over the top in pantomime, and you cringe a bit, because you've got to entertain everybody. But people think to entertain the adults, you've got to be, rude or blue or. They say it goes over the kids' heads, but it doesn't. I mean, kids 8 and under maybe, but 8 and over, they know what you're talking about. They know what you're doing. How cucumber gag. We do it so innocently. It's the audience that are saying it's something wrong with it. Say, what? I'm going to show him how to cut He don't want me to slice it because I might catch his fingers. Oh, he put it through there, I can't get near your fingers. And everybody just laughs at what they've done.
What was life like then, touring for the Chuckle shows?
It was fun. It was a lot of fun because we, as I said, we bought a Winnebago, Barry and myself, in 1994, and put Jimmy and Brian into the show in 95, and they toured with us ever since. But that was the first year they put Jimmy and Brian with us was 94, because John Sale, the writer, he wanted to spend a year on the road with us to get the experience, because he was just a writer, and whoever drove the van also sold the merchandise for us and stuff like that. And that we said, come on the road, because we'll pay you a wage, and you can sleep in the brand new Winnebago we just bought. And then he wasn't over happy that Jimmy and Brian talked their way into staying with him in there rather than paying out for digs. I remember Jimmy and Brian saying that we were in travel lodge while they were in the thing, but they could have been in the travel lodge same as we were, but they didn't want to spend money. And then when they did, they only spent money because the following season John wanted to be on his own in the van, so they had to go and stay in a travel lodge. We kept moving up with some travel lodges with some Premier Inns, like he was saying. But then once we started making good money on the road, why stay in a Premier Inn when you can get room service and stuff, So we started staying at Holiday Inns and places like that. But it was still up to them where they wanted to stay. We were paying their wages, We were taking the risk on the door. And towards the end, after Chucklevision finished and we were still touring and the business was dropping, there was lots of places we were losing money. It was costing us money to work, and I'd get angry at the fact that we worked this place. It's cost us a couple of grand today to work. And Brian would say things like, well, you've made enough over the years. And I said, that's not the point. Would you come out next week then and work for me for nothing? Of course I wouldn't. I said, well, that's what we've just done. Not just work for nothing, but paid money to work. Just comments like that are not very nice. I know where he was coming from. I know what he meant. We did, but you live to your means.
How did you find then the audiences, north, south, different areas, responding to Chuckle?
Well, they always were easier to work in the north. Not because we're from the north, but almost any comic will tell you. They give it away. If they think something's funny, they'll laugh out loud. Whereas the south, they sometimes think they're watching the telly. And and after the end of the show, they say, that's the best show, funniest show I've ever seen. And you say, why didn't you show it? But having said that, me and Barry did Barry's last pantomime at Southampton. Fabulous audiences. Fabulous. They sounded like a northern audience every single day. There were huge laughs from them. And me this year in Woking, in Surrey. Fabulous big laughs all the way through, So whether they're changing down there or not, I don't know. But they let themselves go and enjoyed the show, which was great, fabulous. So I think probably on overall now, they're about the same, north and south.
So how many generations then do you think you've now entertained?
Oh dear, it's got to be at least 3, I'd have thought, at least. People were at school, 46-year-old people were still at school when Chucklevision started. So anybody under 46, who can well be grandparents now at that age, it's, so you got 3 generations probably. Because the kids now, although it's not on telly, it's all on YouTube. Almost every episode, 292 episodes, are on YouTube. and people who love the show, which are a lot of people, they show the kids it, and they come and see me, and they say our kids love it just as much as we did. You know, they think it's hilarious. Because a kid that put his arms around, about 3-year-old, came up to me and wrapped his arms right around me for a hug. And I said, "Oh, that's nice." And he said he absolutely loves you. Every morning he's got Chucklevision on telly. He thinks you're great. And it's not been on for 10 years. Well, 9 years.
How was it then taking the cancellation from the BBC?
It wasn't good because they never told us. Never told us, never said a word. They just took it off. It's so Lorraine Hegarty, she's the head of children's, or she was in the 90s, and she took us to the Ivy in London for lunch, and we chatted, lovely to see you again, and blah, blah, and eating, and lovely food there, the Ivy. And then she said, "Well, as for Chucklevision," she said, "as far as I'm concerned, you can keep doing them year after year after year until you've had enough. And the BBC will keep it going until you don't want to do it anymore." So we said, "Oh, thank you, that's lovely." So we don't have to worry about what we're doing next autumn. You know, next autumn we're filming Chucklevision each year. And I think we'd done about 7 series by then. So she was right what she was saying, because after that we did, another 15 episodes, whatever, series. So when it came to the end, we'd done series 22, I think it was, and on the Rat Party, somebody came up to us and said it was an honour to do Chucklevision, especially as it's the last series. You know, it's great to be on it. We said, "What are you talking about, last series?" It's not. "Oh, isn't it? Oh, I must have got it wrong." So I thought it was the last series. I said, "No, it's not the last series. No, you know, as far as we know, anyway. Nobody's told us." So anyway, we took it with a pinch of salt. And then came the following year, and we said, "Where's Chucklevision? You know, you've not come in with the scripts or ideas and stuff." "Oh, well, we're not sure," she said. "We're not sure whether to do another one yet." I said, "We're talking about it. You know, it's still as popular as ever." She said, "Yeah, but the thing is, we put the repeats on, and it gets as many viewers for the repeats as it gets for the real one, you know, for a new one. So it's cheaper just to put the repeats on." We said, "Yeah, but you can only do that so long, and it's, as you just said, it's still getting the same viewing figures, you know, and because the repeats are getting just as good viewing figures means it's popular. That's all." But they wouldn't have it. There was a new guy who was head of children. I can't even remember his name. He's an Irish guy, and he just wouldn't have it. He said, "No, we've got enough in the can," which I suppose 292 episodes in the can was fine. But it only went for another year after that, and they stopped the repeats. And their excuse for that was that they couldn't find everybody from the years back to pay them their royalties, because there was royalties in those days, which is a load of rubbish, because Equity, Bex will find them. You know, they'll collect the money and find the act and pay them. So just total excuses all the time. And to this day, they've not said why they took Chucklevision off. It's so popular, and yet took it off. Not on anymore.
Well, we're not happy as viewers. But as you said, you've got YouTube now, so it would have been nice to have had some more.
Yeah, it would, yeah. Because we enjoyed doing it, and the crew, we had the same crew for about the last 15 years, that every year, they're all independent, the cameras, lights, everybody, but they all penciled in every year to do that, and we had the same crew for years, makeup, everybody, wardrobe. It was like a family, you know, each year we had so much fun. As I think you can tell with the outtakes and stuff we had.
Yeah, that was lovely as well, putting them on at the end.
It was so much fun doing it.
Even the tours as well, because you started recording those and releasing them on DVD.
Yeah, we did.
Spooky Goings On
and Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah. But it was great, because not everybody got to see them. I know that my youngest son loves watching them.
Yeah.
He thinks they're very funny, very silly.
Yeah, they are stupid. Well, that was a stupid comedy. It was silliness. But that has always been the mainstay from back to Roman days. You know, comics in the ring. You trip over and fall on your face, it's funny. Trousers fall down, it's funny. You know, somebody kicks you up the backside, it's funny. But I've always said, you know, if it's winter time and there's snow on the road and you see an old lady coming out with a couple of shopping bags, and she slips, her legs go in the air, legs akimbo, falls flat on her back. First thing you do is go, you can't help it, it looks funny. Then you get worried and you dash across and help her or whatever. But it's funny to see it happen, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's comedy, that's, really is. I mean, the outtakes that they do on telly, not the outtakes, what do you call them, same as our show, Chuckle Time. Things that people do, and people laugh at it. A dog suddenly runs off and the kid is dragged along the floor.
Like the You've Been Framed thing.
You've Been Framed stuff. That's comedy. It's funny. It's funny. These things happen. It's funny. Somebody gets hurt, people laugh. Yeah.
What makes you laugh nowadays?
I think my favourite comic at the minute is Joe Lycett. Jack Whitehall. Great comic. They might both be camp. It's not the reason I like them. But they are very funny guys. You watch them live and whatever, they're very funny. I like John Bishop. I think John's funny. Who's the guy who walks up and down the stage all the time?
Mickey Flanagan?
You won't like, no, Mickey's funny as well, yeah. Now you won't like me saying it. Tubby, not Tubby. You know what I mean? It's got a bit of weight on it. He has Michael McIntyre. Yes. Sorry, Michael, if you're listening. You've not got much weight on, not as much as I have, but there you go.
So they're your sort of people that you like now?
Yeah, they're very funny guys. Oh, and what's his name on Would I Lie to You? Lee Mack. Lee Mack's hilarious. Yeah. There are a lot of good comics out there now.
They need to be in Panto, some of them people as well.
And I do believe it's getting... There was a time in the 80s, late 70s, 80s, 90s maybe, where there was, they called them, comedians, alternative comics. And there wasn't many that were funny at all. Because they did, I think I heard Brian saying that, they just get out there and just talk, or Jimmy might have said it, they talk and talk and talk. It's not like that anymore. They're getting more back to being the old type comedians, but linking gags together into a story, and it works very funny, very funny.
You've created quite a bond recently with Joe Lycett.
Yeah.
How did that start?
First met him in the dressing room at the Royal. It was in the same dressing room. Well, there's about 6 of us all, because there's so many in the show. They're in and out using the same dressing room. And then the following day we did Blankety Blank. And Joe was on it, we were on it. I don't know if you saw it. It was,
I was there.
Yeah. Were you?
It was, what's her name? The Weakest Link one.
Yeah, Weakest Link. Exactly.
It's contagious, isn't it?
Old, yeah. And then there was a girl from Coronation Street that was... what's her name? Married to Kevin, who was in the garage, his ex-wife, their daughter. She was on it. Trying to think who else was in it. The Jewish actress, comedian.
Oh, Leslie Joseph.
Leslie Joseph. And who was the other guy right in the middle at the front? Oh.
I'm just trying to picture it, because it was David Walliams hosting, wasn't it?
X Factor.
Oh, Louis Walsh.
Louis, yeah. Yeah, I forgot that one. Me and Barry were on it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we had a great time doing that, filming that, brilliant. And again, because they've grown up with us, the contestants who were well into their 30s, they all picked me and Barry to be their crossover, what do you think the word is?
Yeah.
I think. And they all won whatever me and Barry picked. It was the same one they picked. That was really fun doing it.
And that was how you and Joe...
That's where we first really met and had a good chat with each other. Then on Twitter, we kept in contact on Twitter here and there. And I think he'd done the painting of me, because he likes to paint. His mum is a fabulous artist. Brilliant painter she is, really fabulous. But he'd done his painting of me. And I tweeted him, I said, right, I'm getting the paints out, I'm doing one of you. There was a bit of banter going on with that, and I did the painting of him and sent it to him. But during the show this year on the tour, he's got all these pictures up there. It's amazing. And then he did this gag about the what's the name of it, Well, if you got to get his DVD and watch the show. It's very funny, and he's got the I'm Rhubarb Bikini. There's a character he's got in a story about his rhubarb bikini comes in. Nobody knows who he is. He calls himself Rhubarb Bikini and he's got a mask on. And then towards the end he said, I found out eventually Rhubarb Bikini was it. And then there's a picture of me holding a card saying, I am Rhubarb Bikini. And then he said, I asked Paul if he would do that and send me one. He said, no, he didn't just send me the one. He said, he sent me loads of them. He kept showing all these pictures of me doing different things with it. It's funny. And then when I went to see the show at Sheffield live, towards the end of the show, I mean, everybody knew anyway, they were all having photos with me and when I was in the audience. He said, you won't believe it. I said, I've been so nervous tonight because I've only got Paul Chuckle in the audience tonight down here. You know, a lovely guy. Then we went out and got smashed afterwards, all those, as you do.
As you do. Well, I've been in that situation before with you, to be fair. So.
Yes, you have. It's good, isn't it? It's good fun.
I've never known somebody that drink like you.
Well, spilling it down the front.
Do you ever get tired of people saying the catchphrases or selfies?
No, not at all. As I said for many years, the time to worry is when they stop saying it. You know, because they don't know you anymore. You know, they've forgotten who you are and things. So it's always nice to be recognised, you know. I mean, I was at Dancing on Ice the other night, and the number of people there, 'cause the people in the VIP area, there's hundreds of them, because it's all the friends of the staff, of the ITV, people in the show itself, they're all in there. And I spend most of the afternoon and evening having photographs with people. I'm just in there. But I wouldn't mind doing that one, yeah, if I could manage to stand up on the ice.
With your history
not
of...
easy. Yeah. The ribs going.
The ribs, not.
No, maybe not.
When you said about the Chuckle Hounds earlier on, and you said it got sold worldwide, did you ever think about taking the Chuckle Brothers abroad?
Well, the thing is, they have a fair every year where they put all the shows in for other countries to come and see them and buy them. The Chuckle Hounds was paid for by Worldwide, so that went straight into the shop window and was bought by 54 countries around the world. Places like the Gabon, we'd never heard of these countries, in Africa. And almost everywhere it went, there was a civil war. John Sale, the writer, told us that. And we looked it up and there was. So the Chuckle Hounds started wars out there. But the Chucklevision, it was so popular, and yet they never, ever, we asked them to, and they never would put it into the shop window, you know, for the sales, for people to come and look. Because it could have gone to Australia, South Africa, Canada, you know, New Zealand. It could have gone to all these English-speaking countries. And we've been told by loads of American people that have been over and seen us live and seen Chucklevision, and they say, why is that not on the States? Why are you not in the States working out there? You know, we'd have loved that, but it never came off. In fact, one year we got to LA quite a bit, me and the wife, on holiday. Love Los Angeles. And we went one year to friends we met in Kefalonia from San Francisco. See, the words don't come out anymore. It was San Francisco, and we went there to theirs, and they took us to a party, because, you know, it's the gay capital of the world. And gay people, but a great crowd, and it was packed, this flat, beautiful flat, packed with people. And they were saying, amen, you know, and talking to you, and say, what do you actually do in England? I said, well, we've got a children's television show called Chucklevision, which had been on for like nearly 20 years at the time. And they said, we've never heard of it. And I said, well, it's on YouTube. There's loads of them on YouTube. Just put Chucklevision in YouTube and they'll come up. I've got me. And one of them went shooting off. So we carried on meeting people and going round. And then suddenly people laughing, look across, and they've got the laptop and there's a crowd around it. And they've got Chucklevision on in LA, and they were all falling about laughing at it. It was a good fun. But they still never went out there. Even when I got a BAFTA, they still didn't take it out there.
What was that like, receiving the BAFTA?
That was brilliant. That was fabulous, yeah. It's being recognised by your peers and stuff. You know, it's really nice for services to children's television. And it was, and being pros and comics, you know, when everybody was going up and collecting their rewards, it was They got nice applause and stuff and what have you, but nobody really funny. Then when we got up to take ours, of course, we went to town on it. I'd say a big thank you to the head of children's television, thanks, and stuff like that. And everybody, because they're all in the business, they're all loving it. Yeah, it was great. But then this last autumn, it's 10 years since we got the award, so they asked if I would go down and present one. Of course, it was only like 3 months since Barry had died. And when they said, you know, we've got a special person coming on who received the BAFTA themselves 10 years ago to give the next award, and it is Paul Chuckle. And every person to a man stood on their feet and they cheered and applauded. And they were going on for about 5 minutes. It was choking, you know. Beautiful, you know, from, again, your peers standing ovation for you for doing nothing except walking on stage.
You did a sketch a few years ago for Comic Relief where it was to find the next national treasure.
Yeah, that was...
You are a national treasure, though.
Well, again, doing that, the only people, we were told afterwards, the only people that I'd have a selfie with, everybody wanted a selfie with me. Stephen Fry, names again, Miranda Hart, and the local girl who's just done cleaning up. Yeah, Sheridan Smith. Yeah. And all of them, they all wanted a photo with me and Barry. It's amazing, you know. Stephen Fry that wanted a photo with me and Barry was unbelievable. But I suppose because we were on, I mean, towards the end, the last 4 or 5 years, when CBBC came out on satellite, what have you, they played it 3 times a day, 7 days a week. It was on at 7 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and 5 o'clock in the afternoon. 7 days a week, 3 episodes a day. So we were in everybody's house all the time.
But you're in everybody's hand now, effectively, in phones and tablets and things
exactly,
like this.
Yeah. I think we sit on a train and watch Chucklevision, you know, on the bus going to school. Yeah, it's amazing. Anyway.
It's wonderful how technology goes.
Yeah. It's nice to know, you know, Barry's not going to be forgotten. He's, you know, it's horrible. Death is a terrible thing. But he's lived on, you know, and he's now living on through me as well, you know, keeping going. Yeah, we were on tour with a show one year, one of our shows, I don't know which one it was, but we were at Basingstoke in the south of England, and they asked this in the dressing room, they said, could this woman come round with a daughter? She's an 8 years old daughter, and she's not been very well, and wondered if she's a big fan, could she come and meet you? So I said, yeah, no problem whatsoever. So he brought her round and she said, it's a bit of a story. I said, well, no, I've got plenty of time. We said hello to the little girl and said, and she's a cute little thing she was. And said she got meningitis and she was really, really, really poorly. And she went into a coma. And she'd been like that from about the Tuesday right through the week. And on the Friday, she was on life support machine, and they told her that if she doesn't come round by Monday morning, we're going to have to turn the machines off, and that's it. And she was obviously hysterical, and she was a massive Chucklevision fan, the little girl. And she thought, she said, do you think she can hear me talking to her? And she said, we don't really know, but we think that people can hear you talking, so it's nice to talk to them, you know, and comfort them. And she suddenly had thought, she loved Chucklevision to death. She would never miss an episode. So she went home and recorded on a loop on a cassette, Chucklevision, 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 and I think round and round. It was about 10 minutes of it on a loop, and went back after she'd had a shower. Went back and sat beside her bed. Again upset and teary, and she just turned the music on, and after about 3 minutes of it playing, she opened her eyes and said, "Is it on, Mummy?" And I tell you, just thinking about it now, as I said, tears shot out of my eyes, you know, this little girl. And I thought from then on, if we did nothing else in the world, we saved a little girl's life, you know. Unbelievable. The power of TV, really.
Power of comedy.
Yeah.
Power of you. To be fair, you've made so many people laugh over the years.
We have, yeah. We've certainly left a legacy behind us now, which is nice. It's nice. It'll be a good few years before we're completely forgotten, I thought, by everybody.
Oh, that won't happen, not with the way technology is.
No, hopefully not.
And I've even heard the royals have watched you.
Well, Prince Charles and Camilla have seen us at the Royal, and Princess Margaret came to the Children's Royal. I remember her coming past, going along the line on stage, shaking hands with everybody. And big Frank Bruno was standing next to me. And he said, "Oh, all right. And she said, "Nice to see you again, Frank." And then she said hello to me and said hello to Barry. Then she came back to me, because the wife was, notice I said to me.
To you?
To me,
yep.
Yeah. So she said, and the wife's in the pit watching it on a TV screen. And she wanted to know afterwards, what was she talking to you about? Because she came back and talked to me for about 3 or 4 minutes, Princess Margaret. But what she'd said was, because we did a sand dance on there, she said, wasn't there a famous act I used to see doing the sand dance like that? And I said, oh yes, Wilson, Keppel and Betty. They were absolutely brilliant. That's them, she said. And I said, no, I wouldn't let her go, I was telling the story. I said, do you know, they went out to Las Vegas to work and they took their own sand with them, which was probably a bit of a publicity stunt, but they did. They took a case full of sand with them to do the sand dance in Las Vegas, the centre of the desert. And she was giggling and laughing. So I've had a conversation with... Oh, and Prince Charles said, what exactly did you do in the show? When he had to explain what we did.
It's a ringing endorsement, isn't it?
Yeah, it was lovely, wasn't it? Yes, he ignored us when we were on. But a lovely guy. And I think I did what you shouldn't do to a royals, and I shook his hand and then put my hand over the top of his hand and double handshake. But he didn't mind at all. He was a really nice fella. Camilla laughed when I took his hand. But we've had a good life. Our business, we can't... the friends I've got that were, down the pit and in steelworks and different stuff like that. And it was their choice and this was my choice, but I've definitely had a better life than they have had. I would think, anyway. Maybe not as much fun. They might have had more fun than me. But you can't complain at the life I've had in the business.
You've probably done more miles on the motorway.
Oh, crikey. I worked it out once and it was well over 1 million miles. Well over 1 million miles we've done over the years. It's frightening, isn't it?
How many service stations have you kept up?
Oh, yeah. I remember at the early days, in fact, 1966, we'd done summer season in Margate, Cliftonville. We were entertaining Reds. We did red coat work in the daytime, and they did shows every night, 6 nights a week. At the end of the season, I came home and I passed my driving test. Barry failed for the second time. And so we bought this little Thames van, £25, from a farm. And the farmer gave us 10 shillings change. We said, I thought it's at £25. He said, yes, but it's bad luck if you don't give change. It's a farmer's tradition. So we got this Thames van. And I remember on Christmas Eve, Barry's birthday, we were supposed to be working a club in Barnsley. And we drove off there. We had hardly any money. So we thought we'll put petrol in on the way back. Because we hadn't got enough, to buy a gallon of petrol. I mean, it was 4 and 9 a gallon in those days. Ridiculous, isn't it? 24 pence a gallon of petrol. Not a litre, a gallon. So we went to Barnsley and we're driving around. There's no sat-navs in those days. We could not find this club. We were about an hour and a half driving around Barnsley, and by now it's like 9 o'clock, 9:15. I thought, they're not going to take us anyway now. They're going to say, no, on your bike, we've got somebody else in. So we drove back. We'd just come off the M1, coming into to Rotherham, and ran out of petrol. And we pushed it up this one hill, thinking it is on the one hill before you go down into Rotherham. We're absolutely sweating. It's now about 11:30 at night, Barry's birthday and everything. And we're pushing the van. We got to the top of the hill, got it moving, jumped in and thought, oh, we're great. Roll all the way down to Rotherham now. There's a petrol station down there. And we scrape it up somehow. We'll leave the watch or something and say we give them money tomorrow. Which they used to do in those days. So we rolled all the way down, and halfway down the hill we got through the trees, and then we saw there's another hill in front of us, twice as big as the one we just pushed it up. Oh, no. So again we get out and try to push it, and we're pushing, and this car pulls up, 2 young lads in it, younger than we were only young, about 17-year-olds. And I said, out of petrol? I said, yeah. He said, well, one of you jump in, I've got a can here. He said, I'll take you down, get some petrol and bring it back. And he did. He took Barry all the way down to the petrol station, come back, filled it up and got home. Stories like that, they happened all the time in the business, all the time.
What would be your big advice for young comics or young double acts?
Give it 100%. You know, if you're going to do it, you've got to do it. Don't half-heartedly do it. Lots of rehearsing, and just when you get on stage, look confident, even if you're not. Even if you don't get a laugh, look as though you don't care, but you think, I'm doing well here. And to push it, give it 100%.
What about nerves? You ever suffer with nerves?
Well, I used to years ago, mainly only in working men's clubs, because you never knew whether they were going to be brilliant. So we did some great nights, or they were going to be dreadful, or they were going to be indifferent. They were all, you never knew it as a lottery when you work clubs. So you'd get nervous going to club to there, because you didn't want a night where it's going to be over. You might get your money at the end of the night, but it's not nice being comedians and not getting laughs, you know. It's brilliant when you get roars of laughter and they say, funniest actor we've ever had in here, and that sort of thing. It's great. But stage-wise, early in the career, we did. But since Chucklevision, we've got nothing to lose. Once we got a name, you know, we knew that 95% of the audience were fans of ours. So there's no point in being nervous. You're walking out, they're mates, you know, they're like friends straight away. So you just bang out. Even pantomime this year on my own, my first one on my own, I had no nerves walking out on my own first show. And when they cheered when I walked on, picked you up anyway, you know, it was lovely. And looking forward to the next one.
Which you won't tell me what it is?
I can't tell you what it is, no, not until it's announced.
Well, it leaves me to my last question for you, which is your dream panto. It can be, you can be in it, you can choose the production, you can choose the theatre it's in, and the past can be current people or people who've passed over.
Right, it was difficult because a lot of my favourites were double acts. Lots of double acts there would be in a pantomime. So let's have a look. I think it'd definitely be after Cinderella, because Cinderella is the greatest of all pantomimes. It always has been, always will be. Babes in the Wood we used to like because it was a big part for the double act. But it's after Cinderella, and I have Barry and me playing Buttons and Zip, which we've done before. Buttons and his brother Zip. Who do I like in it? I think I'd have Ruth Maddock and Sue Pollard playing parts in it. I don't know what I'd stuff them in playing parts, but maybe villagers. Well, it'd be great to have Lauren Hardy's, a couple of village idiots in there. Great. I think Arthur Askey I'd put back in there.
He'd be a baron, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He probably would be, yeah. I'd have to sneak Stu Francis in there, great player, and Billy Pearce. I put Billy in there. It'd be a massive cast. It would be a massive cast. Singers, I don't know really. I've never been into singing myself, but Vince is a lovely guy, Vince Hill, and played a real good straight man. That'd be about it.
Your Cinderella?
I wouldn't be Cinderella, no.
No.
You said you were Cinderella.
No, you're Cinderella. Well, you could be. I've seen you in that wedding dress photograph.
Oh, it's good, isn't it?
Isn't it?
Yeah, I looked good. I won the prize there for the best dressed.
If people haven't seen it, if they look on Paul's, is it on your Twitter?
On my Twitter site, yes, at Paul Chuckle too. Yes, it was a party at Craig Revel Overwood's house, and on New Year's Day we stayed over, and on New Year's Day all the men had to dress as women, all had to be in drag, and the women had to dress up as well. So Sue was Shirley Temple, and I got this bride's dress. The worst thing about it is it was a perfect fit.
I'd love to have seen the bride who wore it originally.
Yes. You wouldn't.
Who had the bigger tash? That's it.
No, she had a bigger tash. I remember seeing the pictures. Yeah.
Well, Paul, thank you so much for spending the time and being so honest in your Panto podcast.
It's been a pleasure.